Hey everyone, Tony D and little Joan has joined me with a hot take on preparing for the worst. Now, you prepare for the worst and you hope for the best. Um, I think, as I said, Trump's going to win. It's going to be a long, drawn out battle, but it'll happen. However, I think we should be prepared for him to lose. And if he does, we have to think about what the next step is. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, he could run in 2024. He's going to be pretty old. I mean, he'll be as old as Biden is now. He'll be 78. There's no guarantee he'll be around, and that's pretty old. That's pretty old. I think it's probably more likely one of the Trump kids would run, and Trump would facilitate that. He's already talking about Trump TV, which was something he was working on prior to the 2016 election. So I think it would probably be a big hit. The first thing is not to despair. And no matter what happens, and even over the course of the next month or so, don't despair. I mean, despair is your enemy. There's no reason to despair. I mean, it wouldn't be great, but Biden isn't as bad as people say. I mean, he's just a typical neoliberal hack, corrupt and stupid and too old really to be doing the job, but he'll be in there and it'll kind of be back to business as usual. However, with a couple of caveats. First, you have a revitalized GOP, which will be good to counterbalance them. You have 51 senators likely. They should be able to stymie any major stupidity that comes down the pike, things like the new Green Deal or any of that woke nonsense. They should be able to stymie it over the next 2 years. And really, it's only going to have to be 2 years, because by the time the midterms roll around and Biden has gaffed his way through probably a year and Kamala Harris has come in to save the day, but she's honestly no better at all and is just terrible at taking questions and whatnot and does a bunch of stupid things in an attempt to kind of quell people. You damn right they're going to take the House back and probably gain a bunch of Senate seats too. There's already rumblings that the Democrats had a Zoom meeting in which one of the moderates was like, we can never say defund the police, socialism, or socialist ever again. And that's going to be a big problem for them because they are in the midst of a civil war within their own party. On the one side, you've got the neoliberals and the moderates who are just sort of there. They don't have really enough people to go elsewhere, and neither do the neolibs at this point. And then you have the up-and-coming progressives who are just woke ideologues like AOC, led by AOC, really, and the rest of the squad who are just pushing and pushing and pushing. And the people they push against, ultimately, they push against the Republicans very ineffectually, but they push against the Democrats very effectively because they're using their own ideology against them. And they are hypocrites in that respect. They're not woke. They play at being woke. Their policies aren't truly progressive, really, in any sense, and they're not good enough, nor will they ever be good enough. Because what you have to understand about the woke ideology and woke politics is it'll never, since the money for, let's say a welfare program of some kind, that'll never work. But they'll never blame the program. They'll blame outside forces. They'll blame not enough money. Usually not enough money. If they instituted UBI, it would be an absolute disaster. And the first thing they said, well, we didn't give people enough money. And they would just give them more and more and more. And it's a vicious circle after a while, because once people start getting used to that money, then they say, let's vote more people in. They're gonna raise our UBI. And then it would be really tough to go, hey, everybody, maybe we shouldn't have UBI. And they'd be like, what? Get the hell out of here. We're not going to vote for you. that's a real problem. That's one of the major reasons you don't want UVI. But what we should do as the non-woke or non-left, which is a huge swath of people and growing every day, is continue that growth. Continue to educate people, to continue to say to people, listen, we had a lot of good things going under Trump. Why did we end up with Biden? Was there malfeasance during the election? All that stuff. And we should continue to be not really confrontational, but we should continue to oppose this ideology of wokeness and whatnot. There's going to be hard times ahead. There's probably going to be a ton of censorship online, but there has been a lot of alternative media. We have BitChute now. It's growing and growing. There are alternatives to Google. DuckDuckGo I just started using over the past few weeks. It works pretty good. I had gotten off of Google one point, and I was trying other search engines. I really didn't like them. But I'm digging the DuckDuckGo. That works. I would say it's just as good. My next step is probably to get off the Chrome browser, go to like a Brave browser, maybe get a VPN thing to hide my, goings on the internet. Don't really trust Google. And slowly what I'm doing is I'm cutting out Silicon Valley and people connected to this mess. One thing I've done is I've cut out TV. Now part of that was just financial and practical on my part. I was really, really broke, and I said, well, I got to cut back here. So I just cut the cable to the internet. And quite frankly, I don't want it back. I don't miss it. I hardly watched it. There's only a handful of shows that I really watched. And at some point, I'm going to go back and binge them on something. I don't know what yet. Probably this Christmas. It's hard to shop for me, so my family will get me like a subscription to something that I could watch. Like, I'm going to get rid of Netflix. I still haven't gotten rid of it yet. I feel bad. I do want to get rid of it, but I desperately want to watch F is for Family. But we have to disconnect and stop giving money to these organizations that help facilitate this mess. One of the media is mostly to blame for this mess. So if you're, for instance, rocking a Disney Plus subscription, understand that money's going into Disney. They own ABC News. NBC owns, I believe, or did, MSNBC. These multinational corporations own a lot. And if you're not going to go after, just unplugging, which most people are doing anyway, you should think about boycotting some of their sponsors and writing to them, because that's often very devastating. If enough people write and boycott products, that gets people's, these guys pay a lot of money for airtime, and when they get emails saying, hey, I'm not going to buy your product anymore because you advertised on CNN, they start thinking twice about it if they get a few thousand of those emails, because now they're like, are we losing our audience here? Are we tainting our brand? They're very, very precious about their brands. And we really should start thinking about that. Start voting with our money more, because that's something that, despite a Biden administration might come in and pass a bunch of woke nonsense, that's something we can always do. And who's going to stop you? Who's going to call you a racist for stopping the purchase of things that are on CNN or MSNBC? No one can really say that. Now, there are limits. I mean, there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies that sponsor CNN, but there are regular products. And, what I've been thinking of is maybe we could do something like a weekly boycott thing where we pick a product that sponsored CNN and decide to boycott it, decide to email him and say, hey, CNN is a really misleading fake news operation. Since you are supporting that with your sponsorship, I can no longer support you. And, I'm not going to buy your product until you stop doing that. Because if you get a response back on that, chances are they're at least talking about it. And when they talk about it, they might at least pull some ads. And the more ads they lose, it just is a downward spiral and CNN's on the ropes. MSNBC, a lot of these places, they're on the ropes. They may go out on their own anyway. So I think it's time, and even if Trump wins, we should probably do this. It's time to punish the media, non-aggressively, non-violently, legally, by voting with our wallets. Start saying, no, we're not going to support you. We don't think you should even exist anymore because you're actual propaganda. And I think that would go a long way to hurting CNN or MSNBC or any of these groups. Network TV, same thing. You could just say to them, no, I'm not going to support you. I'm not going to buy your products because you're part of a organization that is putting out propaganda. You tainted the election, and a lot of them did. Let's be honest, they're all in on this. For 4 years, it was Russiagate and all these things. It's time to say, no, we're done with that. We're not going to spend our money on you anymore. You multinational corporations, you're only concerned about your overseas customers. Okay, go overseas then. You don't have a customer base here anymore. Maybe I got to pay a little more to buy another product, or maybe I just buy products that are advertised elsewhere. For now, I'd be perfectly willing to buy products that are advertising on, say, Tucker Carlson, because at least Tucker, unlike most of Fox, is still seems to be, doing God's work, as it were. So I think we have to start thinking like that. Of course, we have to continue to organize and back political candidates that we like. I think we should continue to punish the Democrats wherever we can in terms of voting for them. They're not going to be very conciliatory. And I think, they have to still be sent this message. I mean, it wasn't, the message sort of got there. I mean, they seem to be scared about their comments about socialism and defunding the police. I don't think that's good enough. Because they're going to try to go back. They're going to try to go back to their Chinese deals. They're probably going to gin up a war. That's not good. That's not good. So if the worst happens, that's the way I see things rolling out. Same thing with the squad, right? There's got to be a way to defund that. If it's not, there are enough Republicans that could have beat AOC. They just didn't vote. They're in their district and they're not voting. Maybe they just thought it wasn't worth it. Maybe it's that the district is so corrupt, there's no possible way to do it because the votes are just thrown away or whatever. So, and that's another big issue. If this election showed anything, it showed that the voting system's completely effed up and needs a complete overhaul. That's one of the reasons I think Donald Trump will win. I think SCOTUS has to acknowledge that, and I think they will say, we can't get rid of Trump. He called this out from the beginning. He seems to be willing to fix it. It has to be fixed. Biden cannot fix it. He can't. How is he going to fix it? If he goes in and fixes the problem, he's basically admitting he cheated. So he can't do it unless they throw Biden under the bus and make Kamala VP and she pretends like she didn't know it was all Biden's fault. But they're not going to do that. They're just going to pretend like, no, the will of the people. So that has to happen. I mean, there's just no other way around it. So anyhow, Joan is very sleepy. I'm very hungry. So I'm going to leave you with that. So be happy. The GOP has made some gains. The Democrats have lost, and they haven't won the presidency yet. But if they do, it's not the end of the world. Nah. Let's not give the other side the satisfaction of any crazy outburst. I mean, we've already had a couple, but don't have a meltdown on Twitter or anything like that. And I think for the most part, people on the other side of the aisle are more stoic, more willing to weather misfortune, and I don't think there's really going to be a problem. There might be a handful of people, and they may get pointed out, but just don't lose your cool.